All right, so today we're going deep on something pretty powerful, I think.
Yeah.
A surah from the Quran called Al-Adiyat.
Okay.
Now, even if you're not super familiar with the Quran, stick with us here.
Right.
It's considered like the central text in Islam, believed to be, the word of God.
Yeah.
But this particular surah, even on its own, has some incredible imagery and these themes that are so universal that really anyone can connect with.
Yeah, it's true. This surah, man, it just doesn't waste any time. It throws you like headfirst into this scene of intense like action and power.
It really does.
Right from the beginning.
It starts off describing, these charging horses, sparks flying from their hooves like a chaotic dawn raid. It's almost cinematic.
Yeah.
What image hits you the hardest when you read those opening lines?
It's interesting. When I read those lines, the image that always comes to mind is like the racers panting.
Oh, wow.
There's this raw energy in those words. You can almost hear their like labored breath.
I could see that.
And feel the ground shake beneath their hooves.
It makes you feel the intensity of that moment.
Totally.
And I think that's kind of the whole point, right?
Exactly.
That visceral imagery, it's not just there for show.
Yeah.
It grabs your attention.
Right.
And like prepares you for something important.
Exactly.
It's like a technique I feel like poets and speakers have used for centuries.
Oh, for sure.
To create this like emotional connection.
Yeah.
And to really draw the audience into the heart of their message.
Absolutely. And from that dramatic opening,
Yeah.
the surah kind of dives into a deeper exploration of human nature.
Yeah.
Which is where we see its timeless relevance.
Exactly.
You know?
Verses 6 through 8 shift the focus from those like external images
Right.
to something way more internal.
Yes.
It's talking about our own behavior, how we tend to be so ungrateful even when we're surrounded by blessings,
Right.
and how we can become consumed by this desire for more, for wealth.
And it's fascinating how the surah connects those charging horses, always pushing forward, with that human tendency for wanting more.
Yeah.
It's almost suggesting that we're like those horses constantly striving, but often focused on what we lack rather than appreciating what we already have.
That's so true.
And this really resonates with modern psychology.
Oh, wow.
Which shows how focusing on possessions can actually decrease our happiness.
Wow, that's a really insightful connection.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if the surah is trying to warn us about the pitfalls of, that endless pursuit of more.
Exactly.
And then, just as you're reflecting on that, the tone shifts again.
It does.
In verses 9 through 11, with this introduction of judgment and divine knowledge.
The idea of judgment is a powerful one.
It is.
Found across many different faiths and philosophies.
Right.
Now, whether it's meant to be taken literally or metaphorically is up for interpretation.
For sure.
But the core concept raises some really important questions.
It does.
About our accountability.
Yeah.
And the nature of the divine.
Right.
It forces us to think about the choices that we make in this life.
Yeah.
And the potential consequences
right.
of those actions.
It's like the surah is prompting us to examine ourselves.
For sure.
To ask, if all my actions and intentions were laid bare, would I be at peace with what is revealed?
Right.
And the idea that there's this higher knowledge encompassing everything is both humbling and maybe even a little unsettling.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
It certainly challenges us to think beyond our own limited perspective.
Yeah.
And for some, it might even offer a sense of comfort.
Oh, that's interesting.
Knowing that there is a force that sees and understands everything.
That's a really interesting point.
Yeah.
So what do you think it is about this surah, even just these few verses, that make it so impactful? Why does it stick with people long after they've read it?
For me, it's that powerful combination of like vivid imagery and universal themes.
Yeah.
It speaks to something fundamental about the human experience.
Right.
Regardless of your background or your beliefs.
That's true.
The imagery draws you in.
Yeah.
And the themes make you think.
Yeah.
Prompting reflection long after you finish reading.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
It bypasses the intellect and goes straight for the gut.
It does.
Making you feel its message, deeply.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Surah Al-Adiyat.
Okay.
We've covered some pretty profound ideas today.
We have.
From the power of imagery to the complexities of human nature and, the concept of ultimate judgment.
Right.
But before we go, we'd like to leave you with something to ponder.
Right.
Imagine you were tasked with describing the human condition.
Okay.
Our strengths, our flaws, our hopes and anxieties,
Yeah.
all in a few powerful lines. What imagery would you choose? And what message would you try to convey?
Interesting question.
Think about it.